And thank you for joining us again on Lily High on Life. And once again, we have a fabulous guest this week, Eva Csanyi-Hurskin, an Australian artist who's made her name overseas as well and wandered, and is back visiting with us for today. Eva, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me, Lily. I don't want to correct you, but it's Csanyi-Hurskin.
I apologise, Csanyi-Hurskin. Yep. And when I tell people how to find your art, it's going to get even more complicated.
It is.
Your parents were from Hungary, and Csanyi is spelt the Hungarian way, and you've added a married name. So if people want to actually see your art, they need to go to evacsanyi-hurskin.com, but it's spelt EVA, but then CSANYI,
no hyphen,
HURSKIN.com. So,
well done,
Eva. Now, you were incentivized with this art of yours by being given not just a 12, 24 or 36, but a 72-pack Derwent colour pencil set.
Yes.
When you were young. Tell us about how people found out that you really had this artistic talent.
Well, I tell this story to all my friends, so sorry if I bore you with this, but I scribbled on my parents' bedroom wall when I was about 3, 2, I'm not sure. Instead of being punished, I was handed a box of Derwents. So
a big
box of Derwents. I guess they saw something in me, and yeah, they were very encouraging. And I've been drawing and scribbling and ever since.
And the really fabulous, fascinating thing about your work, you use pencils in a style that looks like photographs, but it's actually pencil work, and that's called photograph.
Oh, photoreal or hyperreal?
Photorealistic or hyperrealistic art. And it really is very difficult to tell the difference between your artwork and a photograph.
Well, thank you. Yes, that's my aim. I tried photography. I wasn't any good at it. I thought it needed a bit of a clean-up, so I thought I'd draw what I couldn't photograph. And now I actually include those photographic mistakes in my actual work to make them look photoreal. And of course, photos have changed over the years and decades, so what is photoreal exactly?
Today it's quite different.
Yes.
And a lot of your work is just as detailed as a photo. The streets, the fields, the people, the expressions, everything is so realistic and lifelike. Tell me a little bit about the process for you as you're doing something that complex and that detailed.
Well, Lily, I take my own photo references, and I work from those. I pretty much just take it to the next level. So the photographs themselves would probably be considered art, but I do take it that next step further. I like to push myself and challenge whatever I'm doing. I take a close-up. I look at the things that are overlooked, the sort of scruffy guy sitting on the bench on the street corner, or whatever it is that people generally overlook. I take it to a next level, and I like to think that I make them beautiful. I make you notice them. Because you're looking at the detail in the artwork, you're actually looking at the person in the artwork as well, and all the things that you wouldn't bother looking at if you were walking down that street. And I think that's what I do. So
when you started, that's the way you started drawing, in that lifelike way, when you were how old?
No, not really. From a very young age, I pretty much just did whatever came naturally. So just splashing paint on surfaces, just the textile feeling of just playing with the paints and the materials and the colours. I can't actually remember when I really decided to go photoreal, but it was a challenge. So
Were you encouraged with your art as being a way to make a living and to develop, or were you doing it part-time or as a hobby?
Oh, it was always something that was encouraged from my parents to everybody at school and all the teachers, my peers, and now my children are always encouraging me. So I don't care whether I make a living out of it or not. I'll do it anyway.
And that's the true artist in you. Did you have shows or exhibitions before you started wandering the world?
I've wandered the world many times. So, yes, I did have shows. I think the first one I can recall was with Protea Flora. They had an exhibition. It was a florist or a floral garden. They had a show every year, and I did my bird drawings then. I progressed on to different things. I remember I asked an art teacher once, what should I choose? I don't know which genre to choose or what to paint. And they said, stick a genre and stick to it. And I said no. So
just as well you asked.
Thank you. But I don't see the benefit of repeating the same thing over and over again for years on end. If I already know how to do something, or I think I know anyway, I'm satisfied enough to move on to something new and challenging and discovering new materials. And
so was it something that came from within and something that you were drawn to, or the fact that you were getting rewarded and accolades for what you were doing? What kept you going with the art, and what continues to keep you going with the art? Is it something that you feel that you need to do, or something that you're encouraged to do?
And that's a great question, a great point as well, because I was thinking of that earlier today, and I don't do it for the accolades. Pardon me. I don't care about validation or accolades or even the money. I would do it anyway. And it is something that I'm compelled to do it. There's nothing else that drives me as much as just putting materials on surfaces. Don't ask me what it is. It's just scratches on a surface. But to me, it's the world, and I can't live without it.
And now you've been recognised for this work, not just in Australia, but in different parts of the world, the United States, also in England. Yes. Also, tell us about some of the places that you've been where your work has also been recognised.
Well, I've had quite a bit of success in America, which is where I've been living. I've lived there on and off since, 86, I think. And this time around, I went back about 8 or 9 years ago, and I seemed to be liked there, so I stuck around. I have exhibited in Atlanta. I've got some representation. It's Mason Fine Art over in Atlanta near Buckhead. If anybody happens to swing by there.
Ask for the Aussie chick.
The Aussie chick, yeah, the one with a funny accent. So I exhibited there. I was with the Atlanta Portrait Society, exhibited with the Marlene Yu and Rainforest Art Foundation over in Shreveport, Louisiana. Did New York a couple of times, the Selma Gundy Club in Fifth Avenue, no less.
How does that work? You've got your work, you take it in somewhere, or you're working, somebody sees it and somebody takes it for you, or you look for representation, or you try to get into that community as somebody who's entering new communities, which you've done a number of times.
Yes.
How do you do that?
I basically just do my homework and see what's around. I stumbled upon Mason Fine Art in Atlanta. I think I saw their website or something. I can't even recall, but I just simply called them up and they said, yeah, let's see what you got. And I think I only had about 3 drawings. And it was when I started my graphite drawings. Hadn't done them before. I was inspired by a British artist, and I thought, well, that looks good. how hard can it be? And, I showed them a couple of pieces. They said, well, take whatever you've got. So,
wow.
But it's not always that easy. I've knocked on other doors and they've said, no, thank you. So the rejections come with the successes and acceptance as well, and you've just got to keep at it.
So wherever, it doesn't matter where you end up, you sort of manage to find the art area and the art expertise and gravitate towards that and become part of that community.
Yes, and they either like what you do or they're indifferent or they don't like it. A lot of people don't like photorealistic art, and that's okay too. You find your niche and, follow that up.
Have you done other types of art as well as the photorealism?
I'm so glad you asked me that because I don't want to be known as the photorealist or hyper-realist artist. I do venture into lots of things. I haven't gotten as far as abstract yet. Doing the hyperreal work is not my end goal. I don't have an end goal. I just do something for a while, get tired of it, and then move on to something else. And as I said before, I like to be challenged. I did do I did a series, but I didn't do anything with it. It was for my own purposes, therapeutic purposes. I did the Inner Child project, which was trying to not unlearn what I've taught myself all these years, but trying to get back to the basics of just that tactile feeling, just grabbing pastels, which I hadn't used before, and seeing where this will take me. And it's really, really difficult to draw childlike drawings. I'm just compelled to shade and,
So you start with a blank page, you start with the whole gamut of colours, and then you sit there and see what you're moved to do?
Yes, something like that, and that is a lot harder than it sounds, to just do your thing, just whatever comes to mind, just throw paint on paper and see what happens. And I have to say, it's very soothing. It's a break from concentrating on fine detail. And I probably will move on when I'm satisfied with what I'm doing now. I'll move on to probably abstract. I'll figure it out.
Well, if you've got talent, you've got talent, and sticking to one particular thing is what will keep you there. But you never know what's going to happen until you actually give other things a go.
And that's the fun of it. And I have to say that although I'm a photorealist art, I was inspired by, I think he's Scottish, Paul Cadden, who I thought was a brilliant artist. And he's round about my age. He does graphites. So that's what inspired me. But I also like people like Jean-Michel Basquiat. And my French isn't very good, so I hope I pronounced that correctly. He was an artist back in the 80s in New York. And it's very, I don't even know what he's called, what kind of art it is that he does, but very sort of simplistic art. And that is, as I said before, really difficult. That's my next challenge.
And is there somebody here in Australia that still carries your art, or that still has some of your art, or is it mainly in the US and London now?
Yeah, well, there are private collectors here that actually went over to the US and bought my stuff over there and brought it back. So
very nice.
I have a few private collectors, but there are no galleries at the moment that are representing me because I'm not here for a long time.
Well, let me give out your website again, because we're going to have one of the songs that you nominated that you really like, and then your personal private life has been every single bit as interesting and detailed as your art has been. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things in your life. So the website, if people want to see your art, is Eva Csanyi-Hurskin, EVACSANYIHURSKIN.com.
Wonderful.
So
you're getting the hang of it.
Yes, I'm absolutely getting there. And you are an absolutely interesting, fascinating person. They say all artists are a little crazy.
Yes.
Let's talk about when you first left Melbourne to travel, because you've had a lot of different trips away.
Yeah, so you want to talk about my crazy?
Just a little crazy.
A little crazy. Let me think. Gosh, it's been a long life.
But when you first went on your first trip, was that a really big decision to go away? Did you go by yourself? Did you go with friends?
I went by myself. I was getting tired. I'd been living in Sydney, then Melbourne, and bouncing back and forth, working for the airlines. And I just got bored. I'm very easily bored. And I went to Japan. So everything was in Japanese, much to my surprise when I got there. There were no English translations on any of the boards or signs or anything. So I started off there, and then I went over to stayed there for about a month and loved it. Absolutely loved the people.
Did you learn any language? Did you end up with a bit of Japanese?
Oh, mushy mushy. That's about it.
Did you like sushi at the time?
I did. I actually met a friend who took me around and we tried all the different foods. I hadn't had sushi before. I don't think it had...
Nobody had heard of sushi then.
Not back in 85, I think it was. And,
no.
That's where I discovered karaoke. And I thought that was just the funniest thing I'd ever seen, like singing. That's just weird. And of course, it's taken off since then. But
and it's a pretty adventurous place to go for a first trip out of Australia.
Yes,
with no language, no friends, no.
Well, that night at the youth hostel, which looked like our Hilton hotel, by the way. I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And I was ready to just go back home. I stuck it out, and I'm glad I did. I went over to England and based myself there. I worked at Shell Oil Company, and pretty much basing myself in London. I went to and from Europe, France, Italy, and...
so you saw Europe from London?
Yes.
How long were you away?
A year at that time. Where did I go? I went to all the European countries, and I ended up in Greece picking oranges. So, and that's where I met Mr. Hurskin. So
the ex-husband now?
He was the future ex-husband to be.
And you met him in Greece picking fruit. What a great story.
Yeah. And then we ended up going back to the US. He was with the US Air Force. So we went back there and went to Denver, Colorado. It was the first place I ever saw in the States. And then we went to California and lived in the Mojave Desert.
And you had two gorgeous kids?
Not in the Mojave Desert, but
no.
Yes.
And then it ended, as a lot of marriages do and did?
Yes. We ended up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's where I was actually expecting my second son. And that was interesting. They didn't have vacancies at the hospital. And Xavier, my second one, was expecting, we were expecting him September. They only had vacancies in June and July. And I thought, I better come home
and
do this properly.
Hilarious. Did they tell you that with a straight face?
Absolutely. It was ridiculous. So, yeah.
It was there's no room at the inn. We've got to find somewhere else.
Find somewhere else, or just have it now. I don't know. I don't think so.
So you've got one of your sons was actually born in Australia.
Yes, Xavier was born in Australia. They both have dual citizenship because, parentage.
Yes.
So, and Isaac was born in San Bernardino, California.
And then you were a single mum, but you decided to go wandering with the two boys.
When I came back to Australia, yes, I became a sole parent. When the boys were 2.5 and 4.5. I'm afraid the travel bug bit again, and I just had to go. I thought it would be best to get this out of the way before they start school. Just one more trip, and we travelled for about 6 months around the world. We started off in Disneyland, and zigzagged our way across Europe, spent some time in Austria and Hungary with relatives.
What was that like? I mean, being a single mum with 2 little kids and travelling like that.
I would not recommend it. I really wouldn't. And I, 20-something years, nearly 30 years later, I shake my head and think, how did I do that?
But you just made a decision to do it and did it.
And we ended up in Istanbul and eventually in Cairo.
Wow. Tell us about Istanbul and Cairo with 2 little children.
Yeah, well, gosh, they were great. They were really good, although we did have a few mishaps at the Cairo Museum. Isaac, who was 4.5 at the time, very rambunctious, out of control kid. Sorry, Isaac. He knocked over the postcard stand and it was glass, so that had shattered. And I was almost in tears. He didn't get into trouble.
It was an accident.
He was little, but then he ran off underground somewhere, and we chased after him. And there was some sort of sign that said, we weren't allowed in there. I can't remember what it said, but we knew that it was off limits for tourists. And he ran into this huge warehouse, and it was full of mummies, thousands and thousands of them stacked on top of each other, and all 3 of us just stood there in disbelief. And he behaved himself after that.
What a fabulous thing to see, but what a brave thing to do. When you say you just felt you wanted to do it and get it out of your system, were there other things going on that you needed to get out of Australia, or you just had that wanderlust?
Wanderlust, yeah.
And were you still painting at that time, like as you were having your kids and living in different places? Were you still continuing to do your art, or did you stop for a while?
I stopped for a few years, and when the kids were in primary school, I took up my bird drawings again. I went to Monash and did an art degree.
Oh, good girl.
Thank you. And there is life after an art degree, apparently, because then I got a job at a bank.
And you got a job in a bank?
Yes. So.
Gosh. Did the kids show any propensity in art?
Yes, they're both very creative, very artistic, although Xavier, my younger one, is not very interested in pursuing art. He's the pilot, and he's very sort of hands-on, practical type of guy.
Okay, we'll go into him in a little bit. But Eva, Csanyi-Hurskin. Eva, another soulful song.
Yes, I guess I've always been drawn a little bit to the melancholy. I never really thought of it that way, but...
No, because in talking to you, you're hilarious.
Oh, thanks. That's what my kids say.
And it's a nice way to be. You have a wonderful, positive type of personality.
Oh, thank you.
So, Eva, what has kept you living in the United States rather than coming back to Australia? We'll talk about your mum, who you still have with you, in a minute. Right. But what's actually kept you over in the States?
Well, I went over there, as I said, in 86, and I've been going back and forth over the last 30 or so years. I love it there. I think that there were opportunities for my children as well that were not available in Australia. So, yeah, that's basically it, just the opportunities. And even with my art, I think there is a more diverse art community over there. More people, a bigger population for a start. There's at least, 20 times the population?
Yes.
So you're bound to fit in somewhere.
Yes.
And I must confess, I've never told anyone, but I've always felt a little bit like fish out of water in Australia. I don't know why.
Is it a feeling that you're not as accepted if you do things a little differently, perhaps?
Possibly. I'm a complete nonconformist. I'm undisciplined and defiant. So maybe places like New York, I always say, are my kind of crazy. That's why I like it.
You can be whoever you want, and Yeah.
Yeah.
When I lived in LA for 26 years, and it was that feeling of everything and anything is possible over there, whereas here it's like you're looked at sideways, and it takes a little longer to become nonconformist here than it does over there. You eventually make it, but...
Absolutely, I agree.
What differences do you find in people and attitudes, people that you've gotten to know well and are friends over there, and people that are friends that you've had, because you have got a lot of friends here from when you were growing up as well?
Yes, how do you know?
We chatted.
Oh, you checked on me. Yes, I mean, the friends here have been great. I've had a very warm reception in the last couple of weeks when they found out that I was here. Yeah, they were very warm and very friendly, and they're great people. Over in America, I've been to different places. I've lived in various places, and I found Americans very receptive, non-judgmental. I'm not saying that people are judgmental here, but I just found it so easy. Are they?
Yeah, they are. And I don't say that because what I've come to realise is that people are who they are. And it's not even a judgment to say they're judgmental, and it's not even a negative thing. It's just, that's the way people are, and you need to develop a strength within yourself to be who you are, regardless of who it is that you're interacting with.
Maybe that's what it is. Over there in America, I can just be me, and it's okay. I think that's what it might be. And it is diverse, and I do like that diversity. I don't judge. And having said that, I know that I'm in a place over there where there are people that are even crazier than me. So, I'm somewhere in that spectrum.
All good. Now, of course, family is the one thing that has also kept bringing you back to Melbourne.
Yes.
And your mother's getting a little elderly, and that's why you're here now. You're making some decisions about your mother, and a lot of people are in that position now.
Yes, I found that, Lily. It came as a surprise when I received a call from somebody here in Melbourne saying that my mother's not doing very well. Now, my mother 3 years ago was cutting her own grass and doing her own gardening, and she was perfectly capable of driving herself up to the shop. So I just never imagined that this once very lively, active businesswoman, she ran her own business back in the day. I just couldn't imagine that she was vulnerable and not doing so well. And they insisted that she was living on her own. She didn't want to come with us to America. We didn't want to stay here, and she actually wanted her independence. I was prompted to get on the next flight when I found out that she really wasn't doing well, and came over and was quite blown away, actually. I didn't know what to make of it.
What were some of those decisions you had to make all of a sudden, that you realised this was a reality for you?
I had to come over here and be with her and see what needed to be done. She has been diagnosed as having Alzheimer's. I didn't know anything about that. I hadn't cared for the elderly before, so this was brand new to me. My brother is no longer around, so I'm doing this on my own.
Sole decision maker.
It's
kids
hard.
in the States and a mother here.
Yeah.
So you're still making those decisions. You haven't decided where you're going with that yet, or what it's going to be?
I'll do what I think is best for Mum. And every time I ask her, she says something different. So I have to kind of decipher how she feels or what she means, and that's very difficult. It's still hard for me at my age. My mother's 84, so she's my mum. She's always told me what to do, and it's just a really odd situation where I'm taking charge of her now. It's just something that I'm not used to. So
How do you find it? How do you find making those decisions? Because a lot of people are having to do that now, almost flip roles.
Yes.
And you've brought up two boys on your own, and with your brother away, you're now on your own dealing with your mother. When you say you're going to do what's going to be best for your mother, it is a scary place to be.
It is. It is for me or for her?
For you and her, and
Yes.
also for me, because I'm in a similar position also, where my mother's getting older. She's still got all her faculties, thank God, but there are decisions that she's told me, you know, I don't want to be on life support. And I go, are you kidding me? I would never take you off life support.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to leave me on life support. You know, that sort of thing. And it really is just a different world that you get into.
It is. I honestly thought that once I raise my boys, they grow up, that's it, I can retire. I'm in the third trimester of my life, so I'm looking for my forever home where I can sit down by a bay window, look at my garden outside and just paint, and that's not happening. So now I've got a new job to do, and I have to take it very seriously. This is mine.
But it will happen. And your boys are both grown and pretty independent now?
Yes, they are. I've got Isaac, who lives in New York, works for the UN. He's a Columbia graduate, doing very well. Xavier lived in New York but moved down, gave up his apartment, moved down to Trenton, New Jersey, which is where I have my home, to take care of the house while I'm gone. So, and that's Xavier. He's a pilot
Very
for Delta
nice.
Connections. So
they're independent. You've got a grandchild too.
I do, and grandbaby, and Xavier's girlfriend. That's my youngest son. His girlfriend is French. She finished college over in France, and she just came over a couple of days ago with little baby boy, we call him.
Gorgeous.
He's a year and a half.
Came
and he's
over to
adorable.
the States, not to Australia.
Oh, sorry,
though.
to the States, yes.
Yes.
So I'm really, really in a hurry to get back there, and I told Mum about it yesterday when I saw her. She's excited, but then...
And the interesting thing for me also was that you're thinking of taking her to the States.
I'm thinking of it. We've sat down with the family to try to decide what's the best option. She's also... got hip and knee problems, so she's not wheelchair bound, but she can't get around in the outside world on her own. So that's going to be more of a challenge for me, I think.
Yes.
She just has to sit back and relax while I push her around the airports.
But then it really is... It's actually easier to get full-time help because there's a lot more full-time help available in the States than there is here.
Yes.
And at a much, much lower cost. I think here it's $25 an hour or something minimum, whereas in the States you can have people living in for a lot less than that, and so provide home care also. So
that's what we were considering, but also remember you get what you pay for. So you really have to... I'm going to have to do a lot of interviewing and look for the right person.
Eva, it has been absolutely delightful chatting to you about all of these issues, your art, which I hope people go to your website to have a look at, but also all the travelling you've done, the choices you've made in your life that have continued to make your life interesting, which is what Lily High on Life is all about, not just taking the safe route, and finding things in your life that really make you happy. And even this time now where you're dealing with your mother and how to cope with all of that has just been great to talk to you about, because so many of us are in that very same position right now as well. So it's just good to have other people who are also going through that same sort of thing. You're a perfect guest for Lily High on Life, and thank you so much for sharing.